10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Hello and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in the Rocket Pool community. My name is Wack. Today is October 30th and I hope you all had a good weekend. Let's get started with today's episode. So here we have a post from Langers and he says the RPIPs are out for discussion. And there was some talk about, the upgrades that are coming to Rocket Pool in Houston and whether we are talking about them or not talking about them and where all that discussion stands. So Langers here said, the RPIPs are out for discussion. We've been reviewing the RPIP text this week so that I can finalize them. We can kick off a sentiment poll on Monday. There is one more incoming RPIP, which includes some secondary updates that do not necessarily add features but make smart node development easier. We will have the RPIP to the editors on Monday. Welcome any feedback on the timeline or if we are missing anything. So let's have a look at the RPIPs that Langers is talking about. So we've covered these on Rocket Fuel before, so you've seen them, and I guess I just want a little bit more community engagement with them before moving to the next steps. So here we have RPIP 31, which is a new RPL withdrawal address. So your node could, if you choose to have two different withdrawal addresses, one for the RPL and one for the ETH, and it says this is a discussion thread for RPIP 31, a proposal to add additional withdrawal address that is the target for RPL bond withdrawals and RPL reward claims. Essentially, there'll be two withdrawal addresses, one for ETH and one for RPL. The RPL withdrawal address will default to the ETH withdrawal address if you don't set one separately. So then there's the RPIP text here, you can have a read of it, and then there's some discussion. This started 26 days ago, and we covered that in here. There's some more recent discussion as well from Ramana if you want to go and have a look at that. The next one we have here is RPIP 32, which is stake ETH on behalf of a node. And since this is a discussion thread related to RPIP 32, a proposal to enable an independent address to fund registered node with ETH. Subsequently, the node can utilize this ETH to make deposit pools without having direct access to the ETH. So this is the information right here, and then you can read the language of the RPIP, and then there's a comment from Ramana, and there's not many other comments. So if you want to give that a read, go ahead and give that a read too. And then finally, this is the big one for Houston, which is on-chain pDAO replacement. So we've talked about this on Rocket Fuel a bunch of times. So it says, this topic has been bouncing around our Discord and Twitter for a week or so. NPS have strong community support. If you support the direction or have a position to it and any other questions, here's the place where they can be formally heard. We'll develop an RPIP and move and a formal vote out of any discussion here. So then, do you support this? And it's a very strong support, which is 92% yes and one vote that says no. And then there was a whole bunch of discussions. So this was from July that this discussion came up, but then there's been some more recent discussion here as well. So here Langers shared the RPIP for it, and then there was some discussions over the weekend about this. So if you are curious and want to read into all of that stuff, you are welcome to go to the forum and read about these different proposals and get the information that you're looking for. Okay, next we have this update here from Langers again, and he said, just a quick heads up, we will update the pDAO inflation as per the oDAO charter changes in the next 2 weeks. To be ready for the next reward period, we'll put out an announcement before we do that. So here we have the next inflation settings will be pDAO will get 24.1% of inflation, the oDAO will get 5.9% of inflation, and the node operators will continue to get 70% of inflation that they've been getting thus far. So I think this happens every 2 months that the inflation amounts are adjusted, and of course that will keep happening until next summer when the pDAO will reach 28.5% of inflation and the oDAO will reach 1.5% of inflation, with 70% of inflation still going to node operators. So there's going to be a vote coming soon about some changes of how the pDAO inflation is allocated and what kind of things it will potentially be used for. But that's a nice thing to keep your eyes open for. But here, the changes that we got through this summer are still being implemented. Of course, it's going to take place over a year, so it's really nice that this is still continuing, and the pDAO will be getting more and more RPL funds. Okay, next we have this snapshot vote that's taking place right now from the yETH community, and this was about what LST to include in the yETH token, which is a basket of tokens, and this vote is ongoing until November 1st, which is in a couple of days' time. And it was that the Rocket Pool's rETH was a strong favorite to be included. However, that vote has shifted in the last couple of days. And one of the reasons why that shifted to MEV protocol, which is, their MEV-ETH. So that now has 311 votes, which is 50%. And then Rocket Pool's rETH has 278 votes, which is 45%. So you might be thinking, hey, the rETH token had a decent lead going into this weekend. What's going on? What is happening here? Well, there's this tweet from 0x7d54, and that's the person who paid 1 ETH to have rETH listed here. And it says, claps to MEV .io for upping the ante with a $49,000 incentive for the yETH inclusion vote. The ongoing vote is very close. So this was from a couple of days ago when they made the incentive. So it was 278 votes at the time for rETH, and they had 0 incentive, but 0x7d54 is the one who paid for including rETH to the list, and they had rETH had support from members of the yETH community. And then at that time there was 278 votes for MEV.io, their MEV-ETH token, and they gave a $49,000 incentive. So at the time, the rETH was in the lead. But with that $49,000 incentive that you see here, I think that really drove a lot of attention to the MEV-ETH token, and yETH voters have responded in kind, and they seem to have really pushed that up into what they want to see on the yETH basket, I guess. So these incentives, the IMC is very reluctant to pay for these kind of incentives. We're really happy to pay for liquidity incentives, but paying incentives to get the token listed is something that the IMC is not really done, and I don't think it's really in the IMC charter the way it stands at the moment. So for the protocols keep paying these fees, then rETH won't be added to baskets like this. And of course, I'm not just saying this because it's with the rETH is losing the vote, but there were question marks about how useful this would be for rETH to begin with. So that's the way it's looking at the moment. I'll check in a couple of days and see how the final vote result went. Okay, next here we have a first video from SheNodes, who is talking about how to set up a Rocket Pool node with Superphiz. So SheNodes is getting a grant from the GMC for making some of these videos about for new node operators getting set up, and Superphiz is the guest on this video, and they talk about Superphiz's story and the hardware requirements for setting up a validator, and also talking about setting up and how you need to get it all done, and then the different advantages of client diversity, security, and other things like that. So this is a really nice first video, and having Superphiz is a great guest, and there was a good balance here between the technical aspects covered, but also the Fizz's personality and Girl Proton's personality really shone through as well. The hardware section was particularly useful, and that I think would be really valuable for new node operators. Fizz gave recommendations of what kind of hardware you should use based on his suggestions. He said a NUC 11 with an i7 processor, and then that was a really nice video there from SheNodes. So thank you for putting that out. Okay, next we have this discussion that happened in trading over the weekend, and Hodja asked Joe a question. He says, by the way, Joe, since you do quantum, so Joe's background is in working with quantum computing that we talked about on our Launchpad episode together. He says, Hodja asks, is quantum computing ever going to be a threat to Bitcoin or Ethereum security? And then Joe kind of gives an answer here, and he says the TLDR is possibly if you don't change your keys to a post-quantum crypto-based thing once they release it. And slightly longer is the problem is largely data at rest, which means they can collect data today and break it in, say, 20 or 50 or whatever years once they have a machine that can do that. If the shelf life of your data is longer than 20 years, then it's a problem, and the solution is to swap to a quantum PQC, I'm not sure what that stands for, algorithm once they're finalized, which renders them inert. So Hodja says, so ETH needs an upgrade once the PQC algo is available, and we'll need to migrate wallets and contracts. And Joe says, if ETH comes out with a PQC system in 10 years and you move your funds to a private key under that, then they can break your old key all they want, but you won't be able to get anything because it's gone. And he says, yeah, you'll probably have to move it, or they just change the entire work. The chain works en masse and migration happens automatically. So either way. So Hodja says that's kind of bad, big migration of everything. And Joe says they're smart. I'm sure they're doing it in a way that minimizes pain points. If they do it actively, then everyone's not paying attention, and everyone that burned funds by losing keys gets left behind. So that at least tells you how much real ETH is out there. If they do it passively, like just requiring a client upgrade like the merge, then life goes on. So yeah, this is going to be quite interesting the way that it will work out. And Hodja says it's got to be active for something though, right? Because the relationship between the public and private key will be broken. At least one of those two will have to change, e.g. everyone will have a new wallet and address. And then Joe says it really depends on how they do it. Active is probably the easiest from an implementation perspective, but hardest logistically. And then Hodja says, dodgy, but I assume the gigabrains will make it work. And Joe says, I would imagine it would be about as talked about as the merge, since it's a fundamental protocol change. When the time comes, you'll hear about it. So this was a really nice little conversation, and some of the points that Joe made here are kind of what people have been saying for a while, is that eventually you'll have to move a wallet to a new wallet with a new algorithm basically, and once that is in place, then it's likely that we'll get the algorithm before we get the hardware ability to break the existing algorithms that we have right now. And once we move over, then it shouldn't be a problem anymore. But it's really interesting that a lot of ETH and BTC that is on Ethereum and Bitcoin, they'll be up for grabs because people have lost their keys, or the wallets are frozen, or whatever happens, or maybe even the owners have died. Then all that could potentially come back into the market, which I think would be really, really interesting to see how that's going to work, because Satoshi Nakamoto has 1 million Bitcoin sitting in his wallet, and there's a whole lot of dead ETH wallets as well. And depending on how things go, they might even be able to break the security of the 0x dead and 0x00 wallets as well. So that's definitely going to be some really big discussions that are going to happen, I think, in the coming years. But I think, like Joe says here, we're like 20 or 50 years away from having a machine that could break that kind of security. So I don't think it's something that we need to be worrying about right now, but it might be something that we'll worry about in the middle future. So yeah. Okay, I'm covering this even though Chaos deleted his post, but Chaos here shared a link to a Reddit post where there was information about Uniswap contract hack, where people were saying that the Uniswap contracts have been hacked. There's a vulnerability that has been found. Please go to a website. Please go to revoke your wallet's access to Uniswap, because if you don't do that, then everything on your wallet can be drained. Now, on the face of it, that sounds like a really, really huge problem. However, what happened is that, even Valdov here says if this is true, permit to Uni is a big deal. Millions of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or definitely millions of ETH probably could be drained from wallets because they've interacted with Uniswap. But anyway, here, Spoopul says, I think this is a scam. So I just want to cover this on Rocket Fuel today because I want you to all know that there's different kinds of scams going around, and this seems to be like one of the newer ones right now, where you'll get a message saying such and such website or protocol has been hacked, and quickly go and revoke all your access to this, because if you don't do that, then your wallets will be drained. Now, something like this is possible. However, I think you really should wait until you see the news verified from official sources before you rush to use revoking websites. One thing that might be worth knowing as well is that there are lots of different revoking websites. I'm not going to link any of them right now, but there's one, revoke.cash, and another one is Etherscan, lets you do revoke functionalities for wallets as well. It might be good practice to just kind of stay on top of those or have those bookmarked, just so you know that if there's ever a situation where you do need to revoke access to your wallet, then you can go to a trusted site that you already have in place, instead of following a link that someone's pasted in a tweet or on Twitter or Discord or somewhere like that, because those can sometimes, or oftentimes I guess, be malicious links, and you should always be careful about what you're giving connectivity access on your wallet to different places like that. So definitely be aware of that, be careful about all of that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd cover that just as a heads up, even though Chaos removed the original link that was taking you to Discord and talking about that Uniswap hack that isn't a hack. Okay, next we had a Maverick this morning sharing a screenshot from the Stader roadmap, and here there's a screenshot right here, and we can actually go to the roadmap itself and have a look at what's going on. So Stader had this post where they're talking to Eigenlayer, and they're saying Stader proposes to whitelist yETH, Stader's LST on Ethereum, as one of the restaking assets on Eigenlayer. So they're kind of pitching it to Eigenlayer about including yETH to Eigenlayer, and then they're kind of talking about what Eigenlayer are and what they're doing, and they're talking about the different ways that the token works and how everything works. And one of the things that they shared in there was a roadmap. So I thought it might be interesting to cover this for you all. So one of the things that they talk about in the roadmap here is that it says, over the next 2 quarters, Stader will be working on the following features. Number 1 is lower the ETH and Stader bond necessary by permissionless node operators to spin up Ethereum validators on the Beacon chain. 2, mega pools. 3, distributed validator technology. 3, a Ledger Live integration. 4, layer 2 expansion. 5, integration into borrowing and lending protocols. And then next we have partnering with multiple wallets, exchanges and custodians. And finally, increase utility of the SD governance token. So here you have their roadmap, and a few things on there should really jump out to people who watch Rocket Fuel all the time, and one of those is lowering the ETH and SD bonds, and the other thing, of course, is the big jump out should be the mega pools here. And mega pools, of course, is something that the Rocket Pool team is working on. So as Mav shared this in Discord, a lot of people started responding by laughing, and then also talking about Stader going below 4 ETH requirement, and there's some of the issues that come up around there. So I'm not going to spend too much time kind of talking about Stader, they're doing what they're doing, but we've talked about some of the security shortcuts they've taken before, and also it's interesting that they're talking about mega pools, because we think that's about maybe a year away for Rocket Pool because of some of the upgrades that need to happen to the Ethereum the chain itself, and I don't know how they're going to develop mega pools before then, but that's interesting to see. Here we had Schifrin kind of mocking a little bit or teasing Stader a little bit, saying, he edited their roadmap saying, over the next 2 quarters, Stader will be working on the following features: study the Rocket Pool Discord to see if they have any new ideas, copy and paste from Rocket Pool's latest GitHub commits, and change our color from green to orange. And Schifrin says that's a solid roadmap if you ask me. And Halululo says the last one seems extreme. I mean, changing to orange definitely is extreme, but and then finally as well here, Mav shared a screenshot of the Stader Discord where people here are talking about adopting some attributes or some new features, and they're getting ideas from the Rocket Pool Discord. So here, like, am I allowed to post these links? And here's dao.rocketpool.net, draft proposal, expanding Rocket Pool market research with no RPL bonded mega pools. And here as well, there's discussion about Rocket Pool, about bond and different amounts that you can bond. And then there's link to the Discord, the forum as well, where people are talking about it and saying they've got pretty interesting stuff going on. And then about borrowing the RPL token and like using it like that through RV and other systems as well. So, we need to be clear that, having open source software means that it's totally fine for people to, use your software, build on your software, provided that, provide attributions in the right way. But it's kind of funny that they're literally like even copying the naming and stuff that's coming up there. But good luck to Stader. The comment that I made to Maverick was that Halulu said they're going lower than far, and said their market share is growing too slowly and they're getting desperate. Like, so I've mentioned this before that Ethereum staking is a cutthroat environment, and there's a whole lot of staking tokens that are coming online, and it's a cutthroat market. Like, there's going to be very few of them that get any meaningful impact. And sadly, this is going to be more and more common, where you see protocols potentially taking shortcuts in security just to get online faster, or try to build a market share as quickly as possible. So I'll keep on top of this news as it's developing. Like I said, it's going to be a while, but yeah, not sure here, because the Rocket Pool team hasn't released an official roadmap yet for Houston and the Saturn upgrades. So not sure here says, wow, the Rocket Pool team is stealing ideas from Stader, because of course they put their roadmap out first. So, people have been lightly poking fun, but it's always the case that, you should be careful about staking services developing features that might be too quick, because the security apparatus isn't in place to make sure that everything is as safe as possible for users. So I'm going to end the episode on that note there. I hope you all, like I said earlier, have had a good weekend, and I will see you all tomorrow. Thanks all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. Bye.